You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
What is up, good people? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Yes, this is one of those weird sounding intros because I'm up in the hills around Portland collecting firewood for my old man. So I gotta get this recorded before you hear him start a chainsaw again. Anyway, this episode I'm talking to Jon from Northlane. Northlane has been a band for a very long time, and I've been wanting to talk to him for quite a while, so this was a really good chat. We had some interesting conversations around songwriting and how gear can influence the songs, and songs can influence the gear choices, and vice versa. It's a really good conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And of course, we got weird over on Patreon, so if you want to support the show and get extra stuff... Whoa, who's that? Oh, somebody's yelling over there. Anyway, if you want to get extra content every week beamed right to your ears and help support the show, please just go over to patreon.com/tonemob, where for just $5 a month you can get not only access to the ad-free feeds, but also bonus content every week, and it helps out immensely. And I've asked for this a lot, and I'll continue to ask for this probably for the rest of my life, but please share this with a friend. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. It's so helpful. It is the biggest thing you can do to help keep this thing going, is getting somebody else into it. And I appreciate everybody that has done that. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, and before I forget, I am headed to Nashville. I'm flying out the 29th, and I will be having a pizza feast with the boys from Eastside Music. So stay tuned for that on all the Tone Mobbed socials. It will be at a different location than the usual Eastside location. More on that very soon. I'll be getting pizza from 5 Points, and we'll be doing a little pizza feast on Saturday, May 4th. That's Saturday, May 4th in Nashville, Tennessee. Stay tuned to the Tone Mob socials for all the details, the location, and all that jazz. That is Saturday, May 4th, Nashville, Tennessee. If you don't see anything for some weird reason, shoot me a message on all platforms and I'll make sure you have all the details. All right, let's stop talking about pizza so we can talk about pizza with Jon from Northlane. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland. With me today, I have Jon Deiley from Northlane. What's going on, dude?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Yeah. So what time is it down there in Australia right now? My world clock's all thrown off.
It's 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Oh, so you're bright and crispy now. I'm needing coffee to get through the afternoon here.
It's look, some would consider it early, but I guess it's mid-morning technically.
Technically, sure. Are you an early riser? Do you was this a push for you, or is that pretty normal?
You know what? I get up pretty early these days. I don't know why. I go to bed early, so I wake up relatively early. So no, it's fine.
I have the exact opposite problem. Go to bed late. 9 a.m. would be like all right, I'll slap myself awake. I'm going. I'm up by 8:30, but I'm not awake, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. Now I get up at like 6, and then I see my phone. I'm like, oh, I probably should sleep a little bit more, but I could get up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm a thinker. I'm just thinking. I'm like, I could be doing things.
Yeah, well, that I definitely understand. There's always something to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's start with your story. I mean, obviously, you guys are a very popular band, and probably needs no introduction to a lot of people, but not all of my audience is in the rock or metal world. So maybe give me your backstory. When did you start playing, and how did you get to where you are now?
Playing guitar or just playing
music in general? Let's start from square one.
Yeah. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was like 12. Started the band when I was 18. We've been sort of just touring and writing ever since then, from about 2009, late 2008. And yeah, I think just writing and touring for the last sort of, I don't know how long, 14 something odd years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Did you always know that's what you wanted to do, or did it?
No, no, I didn't. I actually, when I was about 18, just before the band started, I feel like I had a bit of existential dread, just thinking like, what am I going to do with my life? And I didn't really enjoy school very much, and I think I almost scared myself into doing music because, like, I just sort of feared that I would be miserable throughout life, like trying to find a job that I really wanted to do. And I feel like probably a lot of people feel like that, just like working for somebody else. And I basically just like threw myself at music. And I obviously like really enjoyed writing music as well. At the time, I was writing in this like tablature software called Guitar Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I was already writing songs and stuff. So by the time like we got enough people sort of interested in starting a band, we already had some tunes ready to go.
That's very cool. I can understand the sort of the existential dread of looking down the kind of the barrel of life and everyone's telling you to do one thing and you're like, that doesn't feel like the thing that I should do though, but everybody's saying it, so maybe there's something to it. I kind of did dive into that, and it took me a long time to figure out like why does this, I'm doing all the things, why does it suck so much? And it's like, because you really want to be doing music related things, and that was part of how this whole thing started. So I definitely understand that. So
well, it wasn't even music specifically. It was anything. Like I was even, because I love video games as well, so I was playing a lot of video games when you're in your late teens or early teens, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, oh, maybe I could get into like game design or so. I was just trying to figure out the things that I piqued my curiosity, something I could do there. I was obsessed with sort of game soundtracks and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, maybe I could do that. But I very quickly figured out like that's even harder to do than starting a band. Like I don't even know how you get your foot in the door with that sort of stuff.
It's what I've learned about the film and game world is a lot of it is even more than, like you said, starting a band, is who you know, how you know, and everybody I know that's gotten the opportunity to work in that space, it's been through constant trying, constantly, networking or submitting to libraries, etc., etc. It's a process. In fact,
Yeah.
I had a guy named Charlton Moore who has a company called Franklin Strap, which is probably like, I don't know, maybe the second or third biggest guitar strap company in the world, but he also does a lot of film stuff, and he writes and produces and publishes a song every single day.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I have had a couple companies approach me for that same thing, which is like, oh, we know you write music. Could you do some just like sort of generic type of stuff, and like how quickly could you turn it over for like TV, sync, commercials, and that sort of thing. And honestly, like I love music, but I don't know if I could ever do that stuff because I'm too precious about the stuff that I make, and I want everything to be perfect. And my peers that are in that sort of side of the industry, they're like, dude, it's so cutthroat. Like you'll just have to commit to things and send them off and then move on to the next thing. You don't even have a chance to really like sit with stuff. And that's where I kind of, I mean, it's not about enjoyment with that job. That's just about turning things over. But yeah, I think I would struggle with a job like that.
I think if you don't enjoy working in that environment and, going through a process like that, then it's one of those things where you might as well have a regular job.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work, it's very difficult to get into, and it's very difficult to be consistent with. And if you don't like any of it, then what's the point? There's no point in working really, really hard for something that isn't what you want to do anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Of,
Even if the money was really good, which I'm sure it probably is, but
I think it can be. It can be. I also know it can be pretty okay. You know, I think it varies a lot depending on the project,
on the job. If you get a good gig, yeah.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Like Hans Zimmer's doing fine, you know. he's got he's got it on lock. I think he's doing all right.
He's like, yeah, you know what? Like this gig it's good, but like the money's just, you know, like.
I only got paid like $4 million this last movie. You know,
I think the size of the studio sort of is indicative of how well the gigs are going. I feel like and his studio is just growing every day.
It can be indicative of how the gigs are going or how irresponsible you're being, one way or another.
True.
But I imagine you've gotten to record in some pretty rad environments at this point. I'm kind of a studio nerd. What are some of the coolest spots you've recorded in?
Well, the first sort of studios that we worked in were Will Putney's old studio at the machine shop.
Yeah.
And it's a cool studio, but it was like a bit of a rundown sort of warehouse multi-studio thing. So it's basically a warehouse that they turned into a studio. So it's no surprise that as soon as Will found a better spot to, you know, travel to and set up shop, he did.
Yeah.
But probably the other cool studios that I've been are like 301 in Sydney, a lot of in Australia, a lot of like big bands record there and have done for so long. And I think also when we recorded with David Bendeth as well, I don't think it was his studio, but he was working out of this place called Barbershop in New Jersey. And it was like an old church or something. Like the drum room, you can look at photos of it. The drum room was, it has that very classic like chapel style stained glass windows. So like when you're tracking drums, the sun comes through the stained glass, and it looks epic. Yeah,
that's super cool. When you guys first started, though, I don't imagine that's the first experiences you had recording. Where were you recording when you first got started?
The first place we ever recorded was this. I actually don't know if it exists anymore. It was called Electric Sun in Sydney, and it was kind of just like one of those industrial areas. You sort of pull into a car park, and it's got like 4 automotive shops and bunch of like different warehouses and things, and then there's this one little sort of unassuming door in a building, and you just go through it, and then I think there was 2 or 3 main studios there, but and they were good. Like I feel like a lot of bands that came through like the scene up to the scene in Australia and did things eventually recorded at Electric Sun. It was kind of like the go-to place. Especially like the engineers there. Buddha, I think he works out of Bali or something now. Everybody kind of hit that place up because it was kind of the only place to go unless you paid like a premium to that 301 that I was talking about before, which was like, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 Australian dollars a day, which for like a young band, it's very hard to do because you're also a bit recording, so like you need like at least a couple days just to do a song.
Yeah, totally.
And then that's not even mixing or anything. That's just like the hire for the place.
Did that come with an engineer at that rate, or is that just like you?
It came with the engineer, like it came with Buddha, but I think like the mixing and mastering were additional costs.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I remember we had to get help from our parents to loan us a bit of cash for that first record that we did, Discoveries, and then the band just sort of like paid them back over time. But it was hard. It was hard to get the ball rolling. Even like driving around in Australia, like I don't know what it's like in America, but we couldn't hire a van unless we were over 25. So
I think that's pretty universal. I mean, you can, I think, in certain places. I know I was able to rent a car at 21,
Yeah.
in Ireland, but I had to pay more. But I had to pay more for it. So
Yeah. That makes sense. But we didn't even have that option. So like,
oh wow,
the band had to sort of do well enough playing floor shows and stuff like that to be able to afford our own van, and then we just bought a van.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it so? It sounds like your parents were at least to some degree supportive of the endeavor. That's really cool. What did they
Yeah.
think about it as a career move, though?
Oh, they didn't like it, and I remember they were in our early days. My mum was always like, "You like the writing part of this, don't you? Like you want to do the writing thing. You don't actually want to be in a band, do you?" And I was like, "I just don't know yet. I don't really know yet." But I think she saw more sort of security in like writing and composing as opposed to touring and trying to make a living from touring. But for the most part, they were pretty supportive. I think my dad only has like just come around to what we do in like the last 3 or 4 years or something. he like comes to the shows now and he loves it. But I remember asking him to come to these, and they were like big shows for us in Australia. And he because he just doesn't get the music. He was kind of like begrudgingly being dragged along to these
Sure.
things. So yeah, yes and no to the support.
Yeah, it's interesting how it can go sometimes. You know, some people are like, "Yeah, my family was 100% behind it," but I think it's pretty normal for for most parents to have some reservations if your kid is telling you, "I want to go in a band." I know, like, even though I understand this industry a lot better than I used to, if my
Even then,
son's
you still know,
told it,
yeah.
I'd be like, are you sure? Like, I love this stuff, but are you sure that's what you want to do? It can be a little
Yeah.
dicey. It can be a
Yeah,
little rough.
it is. It is. And it still is. Like, we've been doing this for a long time now, and, we're playing bigger shows, more exciting production. We have sort of flexibility about what we want to do creatively. Like, we've sort of nurtured this fan base that kind of expects, the unexpected. And we'll still get thrown curveballs and stuff all the time that make things tricky and financially difficult. But yeah.
I think what a lot of kids don't understand, especially when they're thinking about when they look at a band like you guys, or any other artist they look up to, and they're like, "Man, I want to do that." I think a lot of the side that's not shown, but being more shown now, is like, "Hey, you're actually running a small business. Is what
Yeah.
you're doing." Like that's
Yeah.
that's literally what it is, and that's not the sexy side of it for most people who are attracted to music or creative endeavors. Have Did you guys have a hard time with that initially, or were you able to kind of latch on and understand that side of it?
The small business side.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, he's our manager now. He took over management. The other guitarist Josh in the band.
Mm-hmm.
He started managing a little while ago, but even before that, like in the early days, he was sort of like he looked after all of the business side of things. Made sure that we weren't spending more money than was coming in, sort of thing. Real basic sort of stuff, but yes, to answer your question, yes, like we kind of did have that under wraps to some degree.
That's good. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, it'd be easy to fuck it up.
Oh yeah, it's it's easier
Yeah,
than it is to do it right. Even if everything's going well, right? Like, everybody's going to. You always hear I think it was trying to remember which hair metal band it was. I don't want to put words into somebody's mouth, but there was a rather large Skid Row, maybe, I can't remember. It was a large hair metal band that I remember watching an interview with, and they were talking about, they were playing like big shows, 30,000 people, and then their manager just like came out and like, well, we don't have any money. Like, what do you mean we don't have any money? Like, well, after this costs and all the cocaine and like all this stuff, like, there's no money. And they were just surprised because they weren't looking at it, I guess, as one probably snorts a lot of cocaine, probably doesn't pay close attention to that stuff.
But also when you're playing like those sorts of shows, you sort of would, I can only imagine you'd probably feel pretty like unstoppable, like how could we squander that amount of money we're this epic, you know.
Right. It would be a weird feeling to know like I'm actually broke, but everybody's going you know, like it's like this is backwards, right? This isn't the rock and roll dream I had in mind.
No.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations in 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff. So let's take a few steps back, because in theory this is a guitar show, okay. Kind of. What were you playing when you guys first got started? What did your rig look like, and how did it evolve?
My rig was a Engel Powerball.
Nice.
Which I saved up a lot of money for. I'm sure they're probably still really expensive, but
they are. They're great amps though.
But well, this is the thing. Like, I think I bought the Powerball because I saw some other band that I really liked using it, and that's kind of your only barometer when you're a kid. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I rocked up to the first rehearsal for Northlane, Josh, who'd been in bands before, he had a heavy duty road case for his 5150. He had like the rack tuner, the wireless, I'm pretty sure he definitely had a cab as well. I'm not sure what it was. And I didn't even have a cab. I kind of just like rocked up with this head to the rehearsal space thinking like, oh, they'll have like cabs and stuff for me to plug into.
Right.
And they didn't have anything. And he just mocked me for it. And which is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. But he like ripped on me for having a Powerball. He was like, oh, it's so scooped, it's so this and that. And so he kind of helped me sort of, I guess, train my ear for things. It is a scooped amp, but like it can do a lot of stuff. And
It can.
and then I think I went from what was I playing then? I was playing what electric was I using? I was using an Ibanez. It was a Japanese Ibanez that had this like sort of flower vine inlay thing go
Mm-hmm.
up. I used that for a long time, and then I eventually we got to that Electric Sun Studios to do our full length, and we started tracking guitars. And Josh had all of these other guitars too. I'm not sure what they were, but none of them could hold tune for what we were trying to do. And Buddha, the engineer, was like, "Stuff this. Let's just go. I know a guitar that'll do this." We ended up buying a LTD Viper
Mm-hmm.
baritone, and it was awesome. It tracked like all the rhythms and leads and stuff for the album. And I used that. I bought that then off Northlane, and used that for a long time. And then that's kind of how I got into LTD ESP. It kind of all started there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually just started. I built a relationship with ESP and started getting some more. I ended up getting an Eclipse. And then I moved into the tellies, baritone, and from that point it was kind of all baritone stuff because that's sort of the tuning that we're in. Tellies, and one of my favorite guitarists when I was growing up was John Frusciante from the Chili's,
Mm-hmm.
and he used tellies and stuff all the time, which is kind of how when it came around to doing like a signature guitar with ESP, I went for that classic look, that sort of sunburst telly. But the twist was that it was baritone and 7 strings.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And that's kind of it. And then we were like messing around with Axe Effects, and then went to Kemper. Now we're on neural quad cortexes, which are awesome.
Were you using any pedals back then in the Powerball days?
You know what's funny? Like there were leads and stuff, and I didn't use any effects or anything like that. I think I was probably using like some sort of. I probably was using a tube screamer actually,
Mm-hmm.
just as an overdrive.
Try to get some of those mids back.
Just as a boost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think, we never used like just singular effect pedals. I think we just used the overdrive. It's pretty bare bones. And then when we got to Axe Effects, I think that's when we started thinking about, hey, if we're playing a lead, it probably should have like some reverb or delay on it or something.
Right.
It's so dry. I guess when you're playing those like floor shows coming up, like you can barely hear whatever you're playing anyway. It sounds like it, so it didn't really matter.
Right.
But yeah, pedals and stuff. Eventually, we got into the Strymon pedals. The Blue Sky, I think, was like the first nice reverb pedal we got.
Mm-hmm.
And now we use basically all quad cortex stuff, except I still have a Strymon El Capistan on my board, which is like still one of the best tape delay pedals that I've heard.
It's great.
Even the timeline has like a tape delay setting that you can select because it has all of these different types of delays. I still don't think it sounds as good or as real as the El Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's still on my board.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's a great pedal. Some of the smaller box Strymon stuff gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Deco is like one of the coolest pedals they've ever made, and nobody ever talks about the Deco.
I've never tried it.
It's like a double tracker kind of idea, and so it's got some modulation in it. It's got some tape saturation in it. You know, it's just it's kind of a studio in a box sort of vibe.
Cool.
But it's just it's more of a flavor enhancer than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get pretty wild. You can get it to do some like flanging, pretty wide sounding stuff, but it's just
so is it a time-based effect then?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the double tracking effect is basically a really short delay. And then if you plug it in stereo, then it sounds like you're actually double tracking.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can adjust the time up to where it's pretty wide and pretty separated, or you can squeeze it down to where it's a little more tight.
But it needs to be
it's
stereo to achieve that stuth. Obviously,
it doesn't need to be, but it's way better.
It sounds better.
Yeah, way better. So I think TC Electronics had a double tracker for them, or they still do. I think it's called the Mimic.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And that thing sounds pretty good, but it's like a lot of people plug it in. They're like, "Oh, I don't get it." I'm like, you really need to plug it in stereo, or you're not getting the full effect. It's
We did have a stereo rig at one point. There was a period where we were like obsessed with dry wet sort of stereo things. I'm sure there's like some photos on the internet. We actually had a pedal board. It was like one of those long ones, probably a meter long or something. We actually had the Kemper mounted onto it upside down. So like the whole rig was on a board, and we had the Mobius, Timeline, El Cap, what else do we have? The Big Sky, and there was like a bunch of other stuff, probably Gate, Overdrive and stuff like that. And I just remember the stereo stuff sounded so good, but it was like it's just so much extra work when you've got two guitarists in stereo. And
it sounds so good though.
It would sound so it did, but like it's also one extra line to go wrong. Like with cables and stuff. And I know this sounds really silly, but also just like, when we were using that rig, we were playing festivals and things like that in Europe, and that's like an extra weight that you have to carry around, just that one extra cable. It's like, I think our stage looms were like I don't know, probably 8 kilos or 10 kilos or something. So that extra cable over 10, 15 meters or something really adds up.
Definitely.
You got to fly with it as well.
You got to fly with it. You just have to deal with it. I mean, as much as I am a like tube amp guy and I love all that stuff and will never not play that, if I was flying around doing festivals, I'd probably have a quad Cortex and maybe a pedal board if I could swing it. But that's just they're too good now. That's the thing. I've actually talked about this a little bit on the podcast here and there, where it's like I built this whole what I call the shred shed I started it in 2014. And it was done by late 2015, and that's right about the time when things started getting really good, in my opinion. I'd messed with some of the earlier modeling stuff, and I was like, nah, it's loud amps all the way. So I double walled this thing, and it's as soundproofed as I could afford to make it at the time. And had Neural existed and some of this other stuff, I don't know if I ever would have gotten there. Because I was playing in a room in my house, and I would annoy my family with my loud amps and stuff. And so I built this place so I could come out and play kind of whenever I want. And right about that time is when the digital amps started getting really, really good. Yeah. Even like the Helix and stuff, I think was released in 2016, I believe. But I don't know. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe I still would have done it. I'm not mad that I did it.
No. And like you'll still obviously use it for years to come. But it's true. Sure. I feel like in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, digital everything has just gotten to a point where it's really hard to tell the difference between the real thing and the captured thing, or even in like synthesizers and like synth VSTs and stuff like that. It's just like computers have advanced so much now that it's way easier to just grab a synth VST or a modeler or something than it is to like set up some real thing in a room,
But when you do take the time to do it and you get everything going and you get the air moving, it's like, this is...
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no, that feeling, because that's a feeling as well. It's not just sound. It's like you're feeling it in the room. You're feeling it in your feet that are on the floor in the room. Like you can't emulate that. You're only emulating the sound. But I think in terms of creativity and, you've sat down, you've made some time to write some music or like try and come up with some ideas. If you have to even stop to think about setting up something, or I want to do that, but it's like I need to do this and that. Like there've been so many times where I have done that, and I just get up. You have that thing, you bought that thing, like go use it.
Yeah.
And by the time I sit down at it, I'm like, I've either forgotten what I was trying to do, or I just that it's the thought was fleeting and it's gone. And I guess it's like a balancing act between like enjoying and recording, capturing the sounds that you want to make, and also just like keeping the juices flowing.
Yes, 100%. When you're feeling it, you don't want to delay. You want to get right to it as quickly as possible. And everything that I mean, I never imagined that I was going to play plugins as much as I do. I'm playing the Benson Mixwave plugin constantly, even though I don't have to. I sometimes, and it's just for that reason. Like I have an idea. Oh, I need to get this down.
Get it going, yeah.
Like let's go. And sometimes the intent is to re-record it later with something else. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? That sounds pretty good, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and go with that.
yeah. That definitely happens.
Yeah, it's not something I anticipated, and I'm sure there's like hours and hours of audio of me 5 years ago going like, I'm never gonna do that. Never will I ever. And now here I am, clicking buttons and downloading VSTs.
Yeah, I go through the same thing almost every day, because I have this, like, I don't know if you can see it here. It's like a very elaborate
yeah. I'm trying to not go down that rabbit hole because I'm already pedal addicted. I know that's even worse.
And it's just like, yeah, it's pedals for synthesizers basically. And I've spent all of this money on this stuff, and like it definitely has like a really cool sound. But at the moment, like I just go through different waves of, it's like, no, I just want to produce stuff. I just want to make things. I want to be able to say to myself at the end of the day, like, the time that I put in, I got something out of it. And there have been so many times where I've just like fiddled around with settings and knobs and stuff with pedals as well, like guitar pedals. And then you're kind of just like, what is the difference? Like, what is the percentage here that I made, on this by spending the time doing that? And I think with guitars, especially, like it's so important to record a DI, because you can just think about that stuff later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a DI is, I love it because you can kind of scratch both itches, so you can get the thing done that you want to get done, and then if you want to nerd out on gear and stuff later,
exactly,
reamp, and then you can have a whole different kind of fun. You're like, yes, I know this idea has merit, and I've got the bass sound here. I also have this completely raw file that I can run through everything in existence and noodle and tweak knobs when I'm in that headspace. It's reamping is I think underrated as far as how fun it can be. It can be so much fun if you're a gear person. Just sit down and go crazy.
But I think also with just time saving, like I just did it recently, even though I just said the things that I said and I know the things that I know, I still spent like maybe a day or two tracking these guitars for this thing. And I realized that I needed another section, and I would have already had it if I could have used the DI in a different context with like a lower gain or something like that. So I ended up having to track it again anyway, like in the time comping it and editing it and that. It's just foolproof.
Yeah,
you should just always be recording a DI.
Yeah, there's really, it's not even like that expensive. If there's just like no reason not to record a DI if you're real serious about it.
Yeah,
it's so easy, and it will open up your options later. And you maybe you won't use it, but you might.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, and especially if you're recording in like 48 or something, like I don't know, it might just be like this OCD part of my brain that stopped me from doing it a long time ago. But I was just like, that's so much like precious hard drive space that's potentially never going to be used for something. It's silly.
It's I have felt like that in the past, but then I started doing a little more video stuff, and I'm like, these files are nothing. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
When it comes to video,
yeah, you get like a 4K 30-second video that's bigger than
a whole project. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Like, oh man, I was stressing about nonsense, but yeah, it's weird. We all have these weird things where they don't make a lot of rational sense sometimes.
sense to most people. Yeah,
yeah, they're like, hard drives are not that expensive anymore.
No.
You can go to Best Buy, or I don't know the Best Buy equivalent in Australia, but get a 2 terabyte hard drive for $120, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. I think you're good.
I think the thing, I don't know if this is true, but I got one of those new M1 MacBooks maybe like a year and a bit ago, and I think I read somewhere that the writing speed is like it's faster if you use the hard drive that's connected to the motherboard as opposed to writing from an external. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I got this MacBook, but I think it only has like a terabyte on it. So I'm doing this thing at the moment where I only have like the sessions that I think I'm going to work on, especially if I go on tour or something like that. And then I have a hard drive with like a bigger hard drive with everything on it. But in like a perfect world, you'd kind of just have everything there on the built-in hard drive.
Yeah, for sure. I was running an M1 Air for several years, basically when they first dropped. And honestly, I still use it for on-the-go stuff. It works fantastic. But I cheaped out and got the smallest hard drive because I was just like, I'll just put everything on externals. And I have put most things on externals. But what I ran into is I couldn't use some of the aforementioned plugins that I wanted because I had the smallest hard drive that was basically available. And a lot of them like to run on the disk drive. So
yeah,
I finally got tired of that this year. And I still run the M1 Mac Air for on the road and whatever, but I got one of the studios this year.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty nice, but I gotta say, from a pure speed perspective, I know like if I look at the raw horsepower, this thing is insane. But from like a watching it render perspective, I'm like, this isn't that much faster than my M1 Air, really.
Yeah. Wait, what is it? Have you got an M3 in the studio?
I got the M2. It was the M2. Whatever the top of the M2 is, the Ultra or the Max.
Yeah,
I forgot what it. That's what I got, and it's horsepower wise, it's a lot more. But from an actual real world speed wise, I mean, maybe if I was doing 3D graphics or something, I would notice. But for audio, it's like this isn't really any better.
Yeah.
But I have way more hard drive space, and I can get whatever plugins I want. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I think I think I'll get double the hard drive space next time. I think you'd kind of forget how many things you need. Like just then you're like, I only need this amount for videos and audio and stuff, but you don't actually think about, I don't know, music, like actual music files that you might have, or like plugins and that sort of thing. Yeah,
so much of that wants to run off the disk drive or performs better on the disk drive.
Yeah.
So it's I've never regretted. I was thinking about this when I spec'd it out, and I'm now kind of kicking myself a little bit for not getting even more hard drive space. But I've never regretted getting more hard drive space.
No. I think maybe briefly you'd be like, oh, that was an extra $600 or something that I could have done something with. But like once you have it, you're like, nah, I made the right decision.
Yeah, I do it with the phone. I always get whenever it's new phone time, which means I broke my old phone. I never just get a new phone to get a new phone. Yeah. But once it's new phone time, I'm like, whatever the biggest hard drive is, give it to me. That's the way to go. Yeah.
Because I have a lot of files, like audio files as well, on my like bounces of ideas for songs and things. I'll stick them on my phone.
Yeah.
And like they add up pretty quickly, especially if you've got like different iterations of it. Plus your photos.
Photos, videos. I mean, yeah, I do a decent amount of video editing on the phone because I'm getting pretty good in InShot, and sometimes it's faster for me to do it on the phone than it is to go in DaVinci and actually
transfer it and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, it's like I'll just do it real quick.
Yeah,
and the phone. I would say that outside of an actual guitar itself, the phone is probably the most important piece of gear that I have. Like really, for my job anyway. I do so much with it, an insane amount. Especially there's the voice memo app. Just the
I use it all the time. I
don't know a musician that doesn't. Every
Yeah.
musician always is humming something into the voice memo app, or just like, hey, don't forget this lyric, the idea, whatever. Like so many things.
Have you ever done the thing where you're in bed and you're going to sleep, or you're trying to go to sleep, and then you have an idea, and then you have the decision to make that's, is this idea so good that I'm going to wake up in the morning and it's still going to be in my brain, or do I get up now and go to the other end of the house and whisper into my phone like a psycho?
Yes. Generally, I make the decision that I'm going to stay in bed.
Okay.
But there was a time I was trying to come up with a name for a project, and I could not figure out a name. It was like, I was trying to name a band basically that wasn't taken and wasn't stupid. And 2 nights I kind of had the idea as I was falling asleep, like, oh, that's a pretty good one. I don't think that's taken. I'll remember in the morning. Nope. And I knew that I thought about it. I was like, oh, you had it last night. What was it? And I couldn't remember. And then finally, like, it came to me, and I just rolled out of bed, like, get the phone quick.
It came back to you?
Yeah, it came back to me
wow.
Either a night or 2 later. I remembered, and I just wrote it in my notes real quick, and I was like, okay.
That's how you know it was meant to be.
And it wasn't taken, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah. American Cyclops. That's what I ended up going with.
Cyclops.
Yeah. It's
cool.
I am a Cyclops, so that's why it probably came back to me. So, yeah. The benefits of being blind in one eye, I guess.
Oh, you're blind in one eye?
I am.
Okay. Now it is actually making sense to me. I was like, oh, he just thinks of himself as a Cyclops.
No, I am. This eye doesn't do much. Yeah. So keep the grinders out of your eyes, kids. That's my advice.
The grinders? You were using a grinder and you...
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I invite you to head over to chaseblinssaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Welcome to us talking about our podcast for a minute.
What's the name of that podcast?
That's Axe to Grind, and right now you're going to be getting a little taste of it, right down to the shaky microphone and all.
And my name's Bob.
And my name's Patrick, and usually we're joined by Tom.
Tom's the best. Tom has a real grown-up job that requires him to be at work, but we talk about decidedly not so grown-up things like
hardcore music and things that people that like hardcore music tend to like.
So that could be the latest shows, revisiting classic material, talking about the new classics, all the little dorm room nonsense that you imagine from niche music podcasts that you either love, want to love, or hate.
Yeah, imagine all the emotions that you have towards a genre that has impacted your life, and then condense them down to an hour to 2 hours a week.
So triangulate your speakers, think about jumping off the bed, singing along, dancing like an idiot, and listen to Axe to Grind podcast.
Yeah, I was using a die grinder with like a 4-inch cutoff wheel.
Yeah.
And it exploded. So,
Oh my god.
yeah, it was a bad day. It was a really bad day. It exploded. It went under my face shield, and yeah, that was it. So
Jesus Christ.
yeah, and it was mostly the impact because it was they spin it like I don't remember 22,000 RPMs or something insane, and I was so confused. I thought somebody had like hit me with something like a hammer, like on a backswing or something, and I was just like screaming and bleeding, and yeah, it was a bad time. Do not recommend.
That's awful.
It was a bad time, kids. So wear your eye protection if you're using a grinder or a saw.
Wear 2 eye protections.
Yes.
And a face shield.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the face shield, ironically, if I hadn't been wearing it, probably I might have been better off because it
did its job. It actually, your face was fine.
No, because it rode up the inside of the face shield. You could see the line right to
my... Oh my god.
So it might have just kind of flung everywhere, but it had a nice path. Whoop.
And in actual fact, the face shield created the perfect highway for it to travel up towards your eye.
It did. It literally did. Yeah. Yeah. Not a good time. Do not recommend.
Oh man.
Don't recommend. I do recommend
anyway.
I promise you, it's better with 2.
You're probably right.
It is. It really is. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not like, well, I missed the other eyeball. I really do.
Man, I'm sorry.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I can do pretty much everything except catch things. That's not very easy.
Do you catch things? Do you attempt to catch things?
Yeah, you have kids. They're always throwing stuff at you.
Yeah. Got to be on guard.
Yep. Driving's fine. Everything else is fine. But trying to hit bugs or catch things is or solder. Soldering's really hard.
Yeah, that would be because it's hard. It's hard enough even with 2 eyes.
Yeah, it's some of my friends are into rock climbing, and I've went with them like at gyms and stuff, and like, all right, everybody, we're gonna all do this with one eye closed because this is way harder with one eye. It's because you can't tell exactly some of these things you want to jump for, but you don't know how hard to jump, or if you should jump, or if you can maybe reach it. It's all these things that I didn't think about being issues.
I'm sure there'll be heaps of those things like we just take for granted, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It could have been a lot worse. So
true.
Yeah.
True.
Well, I'll tell you the biggest bummer about it, other than actually losing the eye. I had a perfect vertical cut on either side of the eye and on the eyelid. I said from the jump, I was like, hey, if I have to lose the eye, this looks awesome. Like, please. I was
going to say, it's a cool scar. It's like the most classic eye scar you can get.
It was, except didn't scar. So I didn't even get that out of the deal.
The universe really did you dirty on this one.
It did. I said it to the guy driving me to the hospital. I was like, hey, if I got to lose the eye, this looks, I mean, it's kind of perfect. I don't want to lose the eye, but if I have to, let's at least get this scar out of the deal. And nope, we're not going to give you that one.
Oh my god.
We'll give you the stupid scar that you got at Home Depot on a vent you were trying to get. Like, oh, cool, that one's awesome. That one's scarred.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Bet you didn't think that was going to be on the podcast.
No. I actually have a friend he's got one eye, and he's an engineer as well. Chris, he engineered the last 2 albums that we did. Mm-hmm. But I think he had the thing from birth, and then it turned weird, and then he had to get it. He had to do something to it. He had one eye that was like, it was there, but it was like pointed that way. Mm-hmm. And then as he got older, I think they were able to like figure a way of, I don't know if it still works, but they like went in there and like pulled the bloody eye cords, really? Whatever they are. Position the eye, and now it's like straight now. Yeah, it looks good.
Is it stuck straight, or does it move like a normal eye?
Good question. Actually, no, I think it must move because I've never noticed it just staying straight.
Yeah.
So I think it moves, but it doesn't work.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not too dissimilar from what I got going on.
Yeah.
Most people don't know. There's
Yours
not
move.
a lot of
yours.
Move. Yeah, mine moves fine. It's the retina that's scarred.
Yeah.
So, like the nerve and everything works, and like the outside works, and the cut on it wasn't really that big of a deal. It was the impact made blood pool underneath my retina, and then which your retina is super super thin, so that caused the scar in the retina, and now it's like, oh good, I can't really see out of that anymore. That's cool.
Would you prefer to have one eye or one ear?
Probably one eye, realistically, for what I do. If I was not into music that much, then yeah, probably the other way. But I do. My ears. I mean, we both can relate to this. Ears are how we pay the bills. So at this point, I have to say, probably need both ears.
Yeah.
To the degree that that's possible. So
me too.
Having lost that sense, though, I am way more careful with my other ones. Like I didn't used to wear, hearing protection or shows. And,
yeah.
I definitely would if I was. I definitely did it at my old jobs where I was working in those industrial areas. It was like, I'm not losing my hearing over a hammer. That's stupid. But I would not wear stuff at concerts and pay the ringing price, and that was not smart. Like I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in years and years. It's
I think you just hit an age where you're like, I need to start preserving at this point.
Once I did oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go on. No, you go.
I was gonna say, well, I did as soon as I did a test and noticed I had a tiny bit of high end loss. It wasn't bad, like pretty normal.
Yeah,
I was like, nope, we're protecting at every opportunity. Anytime there's gonna be loud stuff, I'm gonna have my ears protected. It's not worth it.
I don't know if it's like an actual thing, but I've noticed in the last couple of years, my right ear when I'm mixing things, I tend to think that like guitars and things are just slightly louder in the right side.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's like a frequency range thing. Like it's not like I hear more high end in the right side. It's just like things feel slightly louder in my right side. I don't know what that is. And I was thinking, are they like? And I use this stuff. I don't know if you use it. SonarWorks reference.
Oh, I know what you're talking
software.
about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can click a button and it'll just like flick the channels on the master. And I'm like, yeah, it still feels loud.
On the right side.
On the right side, yeah. So I'm like, it can't be levels in the project. It must be my hearing. That's
interesting. Do you think that ear is more sensitive, or the left ear is losing a little bit?
Ooh. Actually, then it must be this guy. It must be the left guy. He must be like slightly more dull or something then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how often.
These don't get stronger.
They don't get better, usually. No. They usually get worse.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Daredevil or something. I don't think they typically
get better.
No eyes. He has no eyes, but epic hearing. Yeah. That's really... I'm reading a Daredevil book right now. That's probably the only reason I thought of that. But, but yeah, I mean, it also could be. I had a friend who he was at the time doing a lot of engineering and mixing and stuff, and he all of a sudden could not hear out of one of his ears, like hardly at all, and was like, "Uh-oh, what is going on?" And he like went to go check it out, but before he did, he just had his wife like get in there with a flashlight, and she's like, "Oh, it's just like full of wax." Like that's all it was. So he cleaned his ears out, and you could hear totally fine, and even better than normal because it had been building up.
Yeah. And I think when you listen to loud things, or you're like listening to a lot of sound, I think it produces more wax. I think.
I don't know about loud. That would make some sense. I do know that headphones, both in ears and over the ears, will cause wax buildup, and I live my life almost with headphones on between doing this podcast and just listening to stuff in my day to day. I used to never have that problem. That same thing happened to me after I went swimming last summer. All of a sudden I couldn't hear out of my right ear. And I knew that it was like an immediate thing. It was like, okay, I didn't slowly lose hearing it over time. All of a sudden,
No.
just closed up. I heard it close. It's like, okay, that's full of wax, and it was just completely stuffed. And so I've started using just ear. They have the little drops that soften your wax. You can also just use
do they work
or something? Yeah, they just it's kind of just oil, and it just softens the wax a little bit. And I just started using those once a month because I do wear headphones constantly.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and that has to be the reason. It's never happened to me before.
Yeah,
So.
I know on tour when we use our in-ears for consecutive days, weeks, it gets to a lot of build up. There's a lot of build up in there. Yeah. We've actually occasionally we'll take I think it's our drum tech Dan. He has like one of those they're like earwax sucker machines. Mm-hmm. You plug them into the wall and they just go just suck wax out of things, out of anything.
Yep. Perfect. That works.
We've actually never tried to do it from the source.
I don't know if that's recommended or not. The drops are a lot safer. You just drop them in, you hold them in there for like a minute, and then you let it run out. Drop a bit. It's super easy. You can do it with olive oil or coconut oil.
Have you ever had
something.
Like when you get it done medically at the doctor?
I haven't had it done. Well, have I? I'm trying to think now. I had somebody looking in my ear at one point, but I don't remember if we actually had to do anything or if we were just checking.
It's like a wet suction. They're like fire, water, and suck at the same time, and it pulls almost everything out of it. They only ever do it if it's like really, really bad.
My wife had to have that happen. That's why I'm thinking now. I'm remembering, and it did not go well. The person that did it, the person that did it first, it like almost caused more problems than it was. I
suppose if you're putting water into it, you probably do need to know what you're doing, eh? You just expect that they do.
You would have thought, but she has tiny ear canals. Like she has to use kids' earplugs and stuff, like regular ones. She can't get them small enough to work. So she's very small. But yeah, it caused more problems. She had to go back. And they were like, "Oh, they didn't do a very good job." She's like, "Yeah, no, I noticed they didn't do a very good job. Thanks for the update."
Wait, what was that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, man, we are getting close to the end of the podcast, and we've definitely made a very medical-based episode out of this one somehow. But that's good. It's very important for people.
Very medical.
Yes. But before we wrap up and I get to the classic questions that I wrap the show up with, I'd like to give the guests a chance to take the stage, plug anything you want to plug, shout out anybody you want to shout out, say hi to your grandma, whatever you want to do. The floor is yours right now.
I don't really have anything to say.
All right. Nothing? Nothing at all? Clean your ears, kids? I don't know.
Clean your ears, listen to the new EP, stay tuned. There's a cool thing we're doing with a game coming up soon. Oh. Stay tuned for that. Come out and see us play. Buy some merch.
Sounds good, man. All right. Sounds good. All right. Into the classic questions. Here we go. First one. What is your favorite boss pedal?
Ooh. I've never used so many boss pedals, but the one that I did use was that delay, the D was it
3 or 6, or they have a lot of DDs.
I know. It's the one. It was it had 2 black pedals on either side.
They had a couple of those. There's a space station one, and there was like the Giga delay, I think
it was that actually. The
Giga delay, I believe that might be the first time the Giga delays got pulled out in this answer. Interesting.
Oh, really?
I ask this question every time, and it kind of blends together in my brain a little bit, so it's hard to know for sure. But I don't think anybody's pulled out the Giga delay yet. So
I'm a very my favorite effect is the delay effect. So that's definitely why.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm surrounded by delays right now. Here's one. There's a delay. Yeah, I'm just addicted to especially analog delay.
Yeah,
but good pull. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Pizza. Well, I've been eating trying to eat sort of some vegan stuff at the moment. So this isn't a vegan pizza, but salami, classic like salami pepperoni style pizza with olives.
Oh yeah, black olives. Yeah, it's a nice combo.
Mhm.
Do you have
It's
what's a
simple.
pizza? What's a pizza situation like down in Australia? Do you have a lot of good pizza, or is like what do you put like kangaroo pizza, or like what do you guys do
No
down there?
kangaroo pizza. We do eat kangaroo though. Like you can get it from the supermarket, and it's in pies and things. You can get crocodile pies as well.
Crocodile. I've had alligator.
yeah.
I've never had crocodile.
Yeah, they probably taste the same, honestly. The pizza situation's pretty good, although it's like very, very expensive at the moment. We have a lot of wood fire pizza here.
Yeah, I like that. You have a favorite pizzeria?
We've got a couple down here in Melbourne that are pretty good. Small Print, Red Sparrow, A24, A25, A25.
A24, the
A24
movie
is
studio?
for film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's A25. And there's one called 48H as well, which is really good. Which I think the 48H is like 48 hours that they let the dough rest or something.
Oh, ferment or something.
Yeah, some pizza science.
I like that. Pizza science. That's what I should have went to school for. Pizza science.
I do love a pizza though. It's right up there in my favorite foods for sure. Probably everybody's favorite food.
It's hard to argue with. It's just so satisfying.
Yeah.
And yep. Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll see what kind of shenanigans we can get into on Patreon. Does that work for you?
Awesome.
All right. Cool. All right, everybody. For John, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, there you have it. There's another episode in the can. Yes, I'm back in the woods, and let's see, we got to get this done before the chainsaw starts again. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for hanging out. And if you liked it a lot, you can go over to Patreon, where for just $5 a month, you can get access. Oh, there's the people down. They must get really excited about. There's like a race going on down there or something. It's Portland. Who knows what's going on? Anyway, if you really enjoyed this episode, you can go to Patreon and check out even more with John and myself, and I would appreciate that immensely. Again, don't forget about the pizza dinner we're going to have in Nashville with the fellas from Eastside Music. It will be Saturday, May 4th. Stay tuned to the Tone Mob socials, for all the details. I'll make sure that gets published as soon as I have everything exactly ironed out. I'm looking forward to seeing you there if you happen to be there. And, yeah, everybody else, I'll talk to you on the internet very soon. Later, hosen. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier.
So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Nolan, and this is the Corner of Gray Street podcast. As longtime Dave Matthews Band fans, we set out to create a podcast to dive deep into the past, present, and future of DMB.
Not only do we recap and review shows within an ongoing tour, but we revisit past shows from throughout the band's history, conduct interviews with a wide variety of guests with ties to DMB, and create unique and exclusive content like our Concerts on the Corner series.
Whether you're a fan of the band or just a fan of great music, we think you'll find something you'll enjoy. We can't wait to see you on the Corner of Gray Street.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.